Hello, this is a introduction to somebody who may be confused. You may be a small business person, or you may be working with any type of enterprise, and the term SharePoint has suddenly come out. And you may be asking yourself, what is SharePoint? So the purpose of this brief video is an introduction to just simply what is SharePoint, what you should and should not use it for. I'm not going to give you any graphics or PowerPoint slides or images. I'm just going to give you what I think you can use as your pitch in explaining what SharePoint is to your boss, to your coworkers. SharePoint, first of all, is a Microsoft-made product, and it is delivered via a web browser. And the key thing that it does for Office productivity is it connects Office 2003, 2007, 2010 to shared spaces on the web server. Okay, so literally it turns Office that you have right now into something that's connected to the web page, so your Office can become like a web browser. It then provides its key use. The key use you're going to use SharePoint for is enabling people to go to a site in a web browser, in a compatible web browser, say IE8 or Chrome it works on. Works on latest Firefoxes as well. You're going to be able to go onto that site. You're going to be able to go into a document library, just like a file share, and you're going to be able to see documents that you're collaborating on. You're going to be able to check them out and edit them and save them and version control them, and your whole group can save its documents. That's really SharePoint's key use. Now, people will say, well, we already have a G drive. The point on this is that it gives you much more organizational features. First of all, you have search in SharePoint, so that you're enabled, people on the web page can actually search for certain keywords. You may talk to some people who've been using SharePoint with the 2003 version, and they'd say the search was bad. The 2010 version of search is much better, particularly if they use something called fast search, which costs a bit more, but the search has gotten much better. You can also, documents can also have tags assigned to them that explain what they are, not just who made them, but what part of the company they come from, what they're used for, where the department, something you can't do in a file share. In a file share, you'll often find people are trying to pack as much information in the document name as they can. Who made it, what the document's about, what's the department, what's the date, what's the version. You get these enormously long document names. You don't have to worry about that with SharePoint, because you can give the document a basic name, say sales proposal. You can actually define the client as a tag that's filled out in a form. The date, you can have version control for the version. It can tell you who was modified. You can also go and look and see version history. Now, SharePoint doesn't replace track changes. You can do version control, but it's fairly clunky, and you can't do version by version changes, and you can't see what specific sections have been changed just from SharePoint. So keep track changes on if you're doing your Office documents and such. SharePoint comes also with a lot of other features. You can create lists. It has a blogging tool. It has a wiki tool, and the 2010 really brings up something called My Sites, and more people are saying it's like a Facebook, like for the enterprise. I think you're going to have a hard time selling that to your typical business person at first. Okay, you say we want to, unless your manager says we want a Facebook for the business, for the enterprise, you're probably best off concentrating on the fact that SharePoint is a place where you can store, collaborate, and control documents. You can also quite easily, on your own site, without having to go to IT management, define who can or can't see a particular document, what document access rights they have. Okay? So that said, there are things, if you're not going to use some kind of third-party web cloud, which I really would say if you're on low budget, look around. SharePoint has BPOS, and they're coming out with 365. There's also a lot of companies out there that will actually sell you information as a service cloud provisions for SharePoint. Make sure they're secure enough, but I've actually worked with a few of them, and if you have fairly modest requirements, it's useful. It also will allow you to collaborate with a lot of different businesses. So if you're a fairly small company that relies on outside contractors, outside partners a lot, you may want to go out and look at someone who is providing SharePoint as a cloud service, has good guarantees. I definitely would go with that. Once you get SharePoint in and you're starting to look at things like, and people are starting to share documents in it, I could then say, start looking at things that are maybe better information captures. Not everything should go into a document. So you can start looking at blogging, wikis, my site, things like that. One warning though, do not think that you're going to roll blogging out and a large percentage of your employees are going to blog. In any particular organization or group that I've ever encountered, if you get 2% of members blogging, you should be happy. It also has wiki production, same level. Very tiny percentage of your users will ever work with a wiki. Wikis often will look unfinished for that reason. Whereas the My Site page, if you give people a My Site, one of the things you can do with SharePoint, and I don't suggest doing this with 2010, not 2007, but for 2010, is you can actually make it so that people's My Site is their home page. And you can customize this. You'd have your developers to work on this, or you might be able to get this from a cloud provider. So you'll be able to customize it so a person comes into their page, and instead of seeing the company intranet, they see an intranet page that is for them. It has, their tasks, their contacts, their colleagues. You can also integrate SharePoint with something called Office Communication Server, so that you can do IM, or even if you have the capacity, voice over IP integrated with SharePoint. So it gives you you've got Facebook features there, you've got also Skype VoIP potentially with Office Communication Server connected with Office, which stands alone as an information management system on the web, plus you have blogs, about the quality of Blogger blogging. I mean, if you're a WordPress junkie, you're not going to like it. And wikis. The wikis certainly aren't as good as a Wikimedia wiki, but the 2010 is improving wiki. One of the good things about the wikis is you also get, and this is getting a little techie, RSS feeds. But I'm starting to get too techie here, so I hope I've answered your basic question, and you can go from this and actually try to drill down. And thank you very much.